Welcome to Quack Co, the board game channel where every video is 10 minutes or less. I'm Cax from Legendary Tactics, and today, and in fact this week, we are taking over the show. This is Just the Tip Tuesday, and we are looking at the game of Wingspan. We just finished up a great game here, and it was the three of us from Legendary Tactics along with Quackalope, and it was fantastic. We had a lot of fun playing it, and I thought I'd give you some 5 tips today on some strategies that you may want to implement into your own game of Wingspan. It can be with expansions, without, doesn't matter. But I thought I'd take a little walk through with you of some pointers I jotted down here to take a look at. So tip number 1, probably the most important tip, okay, is the off-row power, okay? And it's the idea of steering clear of one of the 3 lanes, okay? Now what that means is you're gonna wanna build up the other 2 lanes pretty heavily. What I did in my board here, we're looking at it, and you can see that I went into the grasslands and the wetlands heavily, all the way. And I actually steered completely clear, not one single bird, into the forest region. Now what that does mean is that you've got to figure out a way to kind of counteract the loss of resource ability from that particular region. Okay, so I had to look at making sure that I was going to be getting resources from any of the other 2 regions that I was playing into, and as it turned out, I was watching the other boards, making sure that other players had powers that, say, for example, Flash beside me was playing with the ruby-throated hummingbird, which gives everybody resource draw. So there you go. There was one way I was getting a resource passively through my game. So I was able to sort of parlay that into not being able to rely as heavily on the gain food option. Okay. And so in that way too, what you have to do is also garner up in your own rows that you're building into. You need to make sure that you've built in an engine into your own other 2 rows that give you resource drawing, and if it's doing it at the card draw, resources there as well, because that's the one I was staying out of. So I had to watch and make sure that I had abilities that would parlay in the other rows. So focus on number 2 that I'd like to bring up with you is that you want to focus on other boards. Okay, the other players' boards. I think getting tunnel vision in this game is a really, really dangerous misstep. If you just focus on your own board, maybe you're going to build up a great board, but maybe you're not paying attention to what the others are doing and drawing one specific card or resource out of the bird feeder or out of the draw deck could actually really mess up and hamper one of your opponents. So keep your eyes peeled on what's around you. Not just resources, not just cards, but also don't forget that you want to be watching the end of round bonuses, okay? Because you got those 4. And I would argue that especially rounds 3 and 4 are critical, okay? Because those are where the points they slowly ramp up, and you're talking 6 and 7 points there up for grabs on round 3 and round 4 respectively. So be aware of that and be mindful. Also, we just played a great expansion here from Oceania and the Nectar abilities. So you want to be mindful of the Nectar ability too, and that wild card of the Nectar is a really neat add-on and a neat twist to the game that I really enjoyed. So that's something to keep an eye on too, and for each of the 3 different rows, you can score those Nectar bonuses. Okay, next tactic I want to look at is the bonus card abilities. Okay, so I really lucked out here, but it was also planned as some strategy as well in picking them. I ended up with 2 end of round bonuses that also relied heavily on eggs. And you can see my egg setup was pretty heavy in the game here. And both abilities scored me on eggs. So the one was that for every bird that I had up, and if there was an egg on it, 9 or more, boom, you're maxing out on your points. Secondly, the manager of getting 4 or more eggs on one particular bird. So I was able to really parlay the bonus cards into some really successful points there at the end of the game. Different paths to victory. So this is really important, that you got to realize that there's a lot of ways to win the game. Okay, you can win the game through focusing on bonus cards. You can win the game through putting up eggs or birds with big egg storage and then going hardcore into the grasslands. You can go hardcore into just getting big scoring pointed birds. Now I would argue with that strategy, risky up front early. You're going to want to wait on that, build a bit of an engine so that you can start getting some resources and then drop in those big birds at the end. But you can go that route. You can go with the card abilities. Flash, in his game here, he scored the common starling, which was absolutely an amazing bird. And it is at the end, if you can get this bird down early, it's cheap. And it is that at the end of each round, you discard 5 resources from your supply, and you top up to 5 cards for every resource discarded behind the bird. So he scored a tremendous amount of points there. If he'd gotten that off really early, that would have been even a bigger score. So don't forget that there's many paths that you can sort of track your way to victory here in this game. And don't get tunnel vision on just the one that you think you're going to want to take. Okay, be mindful and flexible on which way you want to go. And I think that's the number one tip I want to leave you with, is flexibility for this game. Okay, be really open to the idea that it's not just going to be one way that you can score a win in this game. Okay, that be aware that if you draw a hand full of cards that are birds, that they're all super high scoring right off the hop in the early game, and they're all 9-pointers, and there's no way they're all costing 3 and they give you no bonus. Don't be afraid to take 5 resources and then start depending a little more heavily early on what's in front of you up at in the card draw for the birds. So that's another tactic you can use, is just being flexible, being open, being ready to shift the focus where you need to, when you need to, and hopefully you take these tips today. Hopefully you roll them into a great Wingspan playing game. I'm Cax from Legendary Tactics. I hope these were helpful. Don't forget, be kind.